Whoever controls the food controls the people.
History is truly at a turning point. Global energy systems, food systems, and supply chains will be deeply affected.
They've taken agriculture and built an industrial model which doesn't fit nature. So instead of changing their agricultural model to accommodate what is natural, they're changing nature to accommodate the industrial model.
The entire scientific foundation underneath genetically modified organisms is false because organisms are not genetically determined.
The use of GM in agriculture is a risk that is simply not worth taking.
The pharmaceutical industry has no interest in having you well because they don't make any money if you're well.
Of course, there's a lot about money in it, but it's far more than money. It's about eugenics. It's about population control.
You see, GMOs are the product of an infant science. And now we are feeding that product to the entire population. And it's known to create unpredicted side effects, and no one is testing to see if the rise in all these diseases since GMOs were introduced in the mid-90s is caused or promoted by these GMOs.
The Gmo Subterfuge.
Genetically modified organisms, or GMOs, have had their DNA artificially modified by humans using modern genetic manipulation techniques by changing the DNA. So changing the genome of an organism means we can change its characteristics. Genetically modified organisms, or GMOs, began gaining traction in the early 1990s in the United States. Around this time, Monsanto emerged as a dominant force in agricultural biotechnology. Monsanto started off producing Agent Orange, a chemical used during the Vietnam War to remove forest cover and destroy crops. Its horrific side effects were all forms of cancer and birth deformities. Monsanto didn't exactly change its evil deeds and became known for its genetically modified seeds and crops and for its poisonous weed killer Roundup.
The wickedness in the hearts of men. Because of Satan's influence. With that same wickedness, what they could not do with weapons of war, because they don't want to look bad, they're trying to do some other ways.
In 2010, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation invested approximately $23 million in Monsanto shares, around 500,000 at the time. Over the following years, the value of that investment increased significantly. In 2018, Monsanto was bought by Bayer, a chemical giant.
So they've moved from weapons of mass destruction to more silent weapons of the masses' destruction. Take the GMOs, for example.
It has become a common strategy among global elites to manufacture crises, then present a solution that corners people into accepting it, often at the cost of their freedoms. One example frequently cited is the climate change agenda.
We can't get to net zero. We don't get this job done unless agriculture is front and center as part of the solution. Emissions from the food system alone are projected to cause another 0.5 degree of warming by mid-century on the current course that we are today. A 2-degree future could result in an additional 600 million people not getting enough to eat.
6% of global emissions are cows who burp and fart methane to an extreme degree. You can either fix the cows to stop them doing that, or you can make beef without the cow, and both of those, will be pursued to see which one can lead to the best product in terms of taste, health, and cost.
All the talk about climate change is a hoax.
The nitrogen crisis does not exist. It's a pretext, it's a lie. The nitrogen crisis is a manufactured crisis created by bureaucrats in The Hague and in Brussels. The attack on farming is part of a bigger global agenda that is centered around control.
The unelected global actors are using so-called nitrogen emissions as justification to restrict or shut down traditional farming, with the ultimate plan of introducing lab-grown meat,
Synthetic meat has been heavily promoted by Bill Gates and the globalist elites at the WEF as the solution to so-called climate change.
But I read in one of the interviews you gave in the last week or two, it was just published, you said rich nations should move to 100% synthetic beef.
Yeah, unless we can make the cow zero emission, which, I'm not sure we can, we do need to get rid of those emissions. And, it's not going to happen overnight. The scale up and the innovation still required there is quite large.
Everything for him is towards zero.
The U.S. approved the sale of lab-grown meat made from animal cells for the first time.
Upside Foods and Good Meat, two firms that had been racing to be the first in the U.S. to sell meat that doesn't come from livestock animals. This is what is now being referred to as cell-cultivated or cultured meat as it emerges from the laboratory and arrives on dinner plates. And who's one of the biggest benefactors behind the development of this? Take a guess. Yep, your old friend Bill Gates. Interesting, isn't it?
So cultivated meat, put really simply, is real meat that is grown from animal cells.
These cells can come from a biopsy of a living animal, a fertilized egg, or a special bank of stored cells. Companies choose the cells most likely to reproduce quickly. Then, they're placed in tanks in a bath of cell food designed to give them everything they need to grow. Inside these bioreactors, the cell can change into types we normally eat, including those that make muscle, connective tissue, and fat. And the cells multiply over and over and over. After several days or weeks, the meat is removed from the tanks to be shaped into cutlets, hot dogs, nuggets, and sausages.
The source of this meat, they need fast-growing cells, replicating cells, just like when you have a farm that makes fruit from a tree. You don't want to plant a new tree every week. You want a tree that gives you a lot of fruit. And this is what they're trying to do with meat. And so what do they find? Well, there's something called an immortalized cell, also known as a HeLa cell.
Scientists grow human cells in the lab to study how they function, understand how diseases develop, and test new treatments without endangering patients. To make sure that they can repeat these experiments over and over and compare the results with other scientists, they need huge populations of identical cells that can duplicate themselves faithfully for years. But until 1951, all human cell lines that researchers tried to grow had died after a few days. Then a Johns Hopkins scientist named George Guy received a sample of a strange-looking tumor, dark purple, shiny, jelly-like. This sample was special. Some of its cells just kept dividing and dividing and dividing. When individual cells died, generations of copies took their place and thrived. The result was an endless source of identical cells that's still around today, the very first immortal human cell line. Guy labeled it HeLa after the patient with the unusual tumor, Henrietta Lacks.
The February story by Joe Fassler explained why Bill Gates' fake meat companies use immortalized cell lines for their products. Normal meat cells don't just keep dividing forever. To get the cell cultures to grow at rates big enough to power a business, several companies are quietly using what are called immortalized cells, something most people have never eaten intentionally, Fassler wrote.
No real chicken, no real cattle, all right? They are forming the meat by themselves. Creating the beef in the lab with cells.
They realized the best source for fast replicating cells to make lab-grown meat that you're going to eat are cancer and pre-cancer cells. That means taking cancerous and pre-cancerous cells, literally putting them as the base and having those replicate to continue as a fast as possible pace.
I don't think you've seen a mass of cancer, a cancerous mass. I don't think you've seen it. I don't think you've seen a mass of fibroids. I have a question. Are these beefs, are they different from if you sliced some of those fibroids or cancers? It's just a question. Because they look like the same type of cells. They look like similar cells.
Well, according to the Center for Food Safety, a public patent which shows
How this lab-grown meat is supposed to be done is shown first by taking these sort of oncogenic-like cells, or similar to cancer cells that continue to grow and grow and grow indefinitely. So these cells, cancer cells in general are cells that are problematic because they keep reproducing and they're almost basically immortal. They continue to grow. They don't have signals to turn off growth. Now, this may sound like a perfect thing for lab-grown meat because you just have this unlimited supply of growing cells.
These immortalized cell lines replicate forever, just like cancer, which means, in effect, that they are cancer. And while industry types, of course, like I said, they're confident that eating such products pose no risk, it's not difficult to see that if the products are proven safe, how people might be put off. Also, I hope you are put off by the thought that you're eating cancer tumors.
Another aspect of lab-grown meat is the 3D printed meat created by a 3D printer to build meat-like structure either from lab-grown animal cells or plant-based ingredients. Animal cells are taken and grown in a lab to create muscle and fat tissues. These grown cells are then combined with other ingredients to create bio-ink. The 3D printer uses the bio-ink to build a complex 3D structure of tissue layer by layer.
When I want to create my steak, I have a library of a few different slabs. I can choose each one of them and I can adjust it accordingly. I can define the amount of marbling, the internal fat or the external fat. And now I can start and go and print it and produce it. So I'm putting it, this is my queue, this is my timeline for today. I know that in an hour or something from now I will need to refill the machine with new material. But now I can go directly into the printing process, and you can see how the process starts to build layer by layer.
People need to realize a lot of the things that our bodies need to be able to function properly are not going to be present in these disgusting so-called meats grown in laboratories. Second of all, you pointed out the cancer aspect. We don't even know all the different chemicals, right? This stuff is not going to taste like real meat. It's not going to taste like a steak. So what they're going to have to do is completely douse it in chemicals that will supposedly make it taste something remotely resembling food. And these chemicals are very, very dangerous.
There's a lot more cancer today than ever before. The rates of increase, and a lot of it coming from food products.
The American Cancer Society has admitted that bioengineered foods can trigger reactions in people with allergies. Dr. Syed Haider said in an October 2023 interview that bioengineered food itself could be toxic, saying evidence already suggests that it promotes antibiotic resistance, triggers immunosuppression, and even causes cancer.
Aside from the immortal cells in lab-grown meat being carcinogens, ingredients in these products that are meant to mimic the taste and texture of the real thing can also cause all manner of serious health issues. Rats fed SLH experienced unexplained weight gain and changes in blood, indicating the onset of inflammation or kidney disease and possible signs of anemia. SLH, which is derived from genetically modified yeast, is responsible for giving the Impossible Burger its meaty taste and making it bleed like real meat when cut. Another ingredient in the Impossible Burger that caused health issues is herbicide-tolerant soy protein, HTSP. Impossible Foods introduced HTSP to the burger recipe in 2019 to improve the product's texture and avoid gluten. As a result, fake meat burgers can contain residues of the herbicide glyphosate sprayed on soybeans, which are then processed into HTSP. Tests commissioned by the advocacy group Moms Across America confirmed this finding. Based on tests performed at the Iowa-based Health Research Institute laboratories, Impossible Burgers had glyphosate levels of 11.3 parts per billion. This was 11 times higher than the glyphosate detected on the Beyond Meat burger, which used plant-based ingredients that did not undergo genetic modification.
When we talk about these GMO foods and so on and so forth, as much as you can, reject them. And here's why. Not because you yourself might be at risk when you get to know God's word. You may not be at risk. In fact, you will not be at risk when you know the word. But there are others whose faith is not as developed as yours. And as long as you're patronizing those GMO foods you are encouraging the production and distribution of the same, and therefore endangering others who are either ignorant or have no much faith like you. Those who are just growing, those who don't know. So you have to put pressure on those who are producing them and marketing them and distributing them by rejecting them. That is a righteous action from you. That's what you have to do. And once you are decided like that, you will have the options. You will have the alternatives, and God will give you wisdom and ideas. We have to send a strong message to the inventors of evil things.